Welcome to Disambiguation. I'm your host, Michael Fauscette. Each week, we interview experts in artificial intelligence, generative AI, and business automation to help business leaders understand how to use these tools for the biggest business impact. Our show today is the September edition of AI Pulse. Again, joined by my co-host, Tom Pringle, Director of Pilot Research. Tom, welcome.
Thank you.
Lots of good stuff. Lots of good stuff this month, as usual. Lots of interesting AI developments, and I think, by the way, I meant to check this for sure, but I noticed on the episode count that this is like episode 12 or 13, which means that this is like our year anniversary of the show. So who knew?
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. So excitement.
It was my wedding anniversary earlier this week as well. So it's a week of anniversaries.
It's a week of anniversaries. Very good. I like it. All right. Well, let's jump into this. So I was looking through the other day, and I read this article about another integration protocol, interoperability thing, and it just got me thinking about this whole problem, right? That and obviously, I've been really into agentic AI for a bit, and part of the issue, is that they do great at simple tasks, but it gets really less predictable the more complex the task, right, from an agent perspective. And part of that is agent to human collaboration, which we've talked about a fair bit, but the rest of it is agent to agent collaboration, right? Because it often in a very complex workflow, you'd have more than one agent. The agents have to be able to communicate and operate together, and if they're across platform, that could be more complicated. So, and one of the big use cases, personal use cases of agentic is, I can just have it go book my flights and pay for them, or go order some stuff on Amazon for me or whatever, right? But the scary part has always been, okay, but then you're going to let them have your credit card numbers? Like, how are you going to, how do you, I don't know. Do they go on shopping sprees? I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows?
Is it possible?
We've talked about, and we'll talk about later today, kind of the scheming behavior of certain things. So we'll see.
Yeah, so I could end up with a Ferrari in the driveway and not even know it. Although I'm pretty sure my credit card wouldn't cover it. But
no, it's a similar boat here. But indeed, talking of boats definitely couldn't cover a boat either. But it's I don't know. It's interesting. You said the most worrying thing was giving its credit card details to an agent. I'm not entirely sure. I'm still more concerned about having my personal data.
We did away with privacy 20 years ago. The good news is the agent can't go anywhere, so they're not going to use it.
No,
they might sell it.
Well, I was about to say, hang on a second, that data can go anywhere, right?
No,
I assume, joking aside, somewhat serious, somewhat joking, you're talking about the new Google protocol for agent payment stuff.
I am AP2, they call it.
AP2.
Well, and it's interesting because obviously Google put out the first real agent to agent protocol as well, A to A. They need some help in naming, I think, maybe, but anyway. And then this one.
Well, you say that.
I guess AP2. It's not that catchy, but I don't care. Whatever. AP Square. Maybe that's how you say it, right? Because it's a agent payment. AP Square. But that's it. That sounds better. That sounds better. Yeah, I like that. But anyway, open protocol for interoperability, AI agents to check out across merchants and other wallets and websites, etc. Which, if we're going to let it do those transactional things personally and as a business, it's going to have to be able to buy stuff for you, or at least you'd think that's going to be an activity you'd want it to do. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting to see that we're catching up a bit on how we coordinate this, even if we aren't quite to the point where companies are trusting, agents to do very complex workflows.
Yeah, and I think what struck me about it in particular, I suppose, was it kind of, or at least this is my interpretation, it helps kind of conquer that, well, you can have any kind of agents on running on different things. You've also got a load of different payment processes on the other side. And this is a way of binding those together in a very flexible, kind of dynamic fashion. And then
Yep.
if memory serves, it involves clever things like cryptographically signing stuff to prove
Yeah.
that you actually intended to buy that £10,000 first class return ticket as opposed to the £1,000 return
As long as that's horrible, I'm fine. If it's not, I'm in trouble.
ticket.
Ooh,
So,
sorry, that's a little bit of the analyst world protocol. Anyway, um, yeah. Yeah. So I mean, honestly, I was impressed to see that this had moved to this place because I mean, this is definitely an area that even and I use a lot of agents, but I haven't quite gone to the part yet where I want the agent to go book the flight for me. I mean, it could do it. I'm pretty trusting in that respect, but I'm going to hold off on that for a bit. But maybe this solves that, right?
so my question, I suppose, is, I mean, I fully appreciate that I fall into the skeptical end of the spectrum in this conversation. That's pretty much a monthly occurrence, I suppose, given we do this show monthly.
I mean,
But
it's a good balance, right?
to my knowledge, I don't use a single agent for anything. But I'm curious. I mean, so pick on that flight booking example. How much time does it actually save?
Well, I don't know about you, but it's annoying when I'm looking for flights. It takes me a while, and it's a distraction because it's completely out of my normal work, right? It's not like I'm not a travel agent. I'm not good at it. I do struggle. At least I know what airline I want, so I can go search that. But it's not that simple. I mean, it does take some time. I don't know.
Mm. Your flight travel plans are clearly more complex than my own.
They often are because it's often like, okay, well, I need to be there between X and Y, and I can't leave before. And how do I get anyway?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's like, funnily enough, I suppose this is probably not a great comparison, or it's either that or it's a brilliant comparison. It's like the effort put into kind
I'm
of
sure
getting
it's
to
brilliant.
uh, let's not go nuts. It's like the effort and time to get to know a travel agent, and they know that you like to sit on the aisle, that you like to fly at this time of the day, that you prefer to
Mhm,
travel on this airline, on this type of aircraft, kind of blah,
mhm.
blah, avoiding this particular connection. And I suppose you can plug all that stuff into an agent and have it do it instead. I suppose the other thing that occurs to me, I'm quite a big user of Google Flights for checking prices over time and stuff like that. So I suppose you could say to it, this ticket's normally X. If
Mm,
you can get it for X minus this, you can go ahead and buy it, and rather than you sit in front of
mhm.
your screen hitting refresh as an agent there.
Yeah, I mean, it would save you a lot of time for that. You're right. I mean, you could have it monitor and take action if you hit a certain target. So yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah, so I think I think that's there's definitely something there for sure. But I'm still waiting for. I don't know. I'd love to see. I tell you what, I'd like to see. Just kind of related, slightly sidestepping, is a detailed study with lots and lots of lovely data, showing the success and failure rate of AI agents against task complexity.
And that
You've
would be
seen
an
them?
interesting time. And I'm pretty sure the research is there, but yeah, that would be an interesting one to look at. Here.
Yeah, it's just interesting. 'Cause I read a few months ago, some, we all know that, the more complicated you make the process, the more likely it is to at some point break or go wrong or something
Uh-huh.
unexpected happen. So I'd just be interested to see kind of what success rate these agents do have when it comes to kind of organizing. Uh, is it life admin? I don't know. Life admin, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it is really. I mean, just historically, like there was a time because I'm older, I can say there was a time when I used travel agents to book flights. I haven't done that in years. I was really excited when I had the capability to book them myself. Then over time, I went, "This is a pain. I don't really like doing this. Why can't I have a travel agent?" So we're just coming. It's just back to the future, right? Now I can have a travel agent, except it's an agent
Yeah,
and not a person, and you know.
yeah. Yeah,
I don't know.
I
I
get
kind
it.
of like it.
I can no,
I
indeed.
like
It's a bit like I never forget the story my mother told me about the first time she had a dishwasher. She was quite a late adopter in the dishwashing world of electronic automated dishwasher machine thingamajigs. And one of her friends told her, "You'll soon go from disliking doing the washing up to disliking loading and unloading the darn washing
it's
machine."
fair.
So, what's
I
the
mean,
next step on this?
well, I want a robot to load the thing. That'd be the next step, right? I mean, we're there. I think we're close. Maybe I don't
I
know.
don't. I don't know. Don't you listen to
Well, so this is kind of an interesting setup for one of the other topics actually that you just added, and it kind of leads into another one. So maybe we should jump to that because I and we talked about this story before about the research that talks about, and I guess OpenAI did that led this piece of it, but the fact that at least for the tested models that are available, straight up GPT, transformer based, LLM based chatbots like ChatGPT and Claude, they lie. I don't know how else to say that. They lie.
Yeah,
And they
it was
seem to
some.
enjoy lying.
Oh dear, now that's a whole philosophical
I'm just
topic
saying.
right there, isn't it? No,
Yeah.
indeed. I mean, kind of. I'm sure most people are familiar with the kind of the concept of hallucinations. I'm always. I just put a short note on LinkedIn not so long ago about this, just on the basis that I'm particularly impressed with the confidence and succinct nature of hallucinations. It's like you're just reading and you kind of get to this point, like, oh, word, that's completely wrong, but it sounded almost exactly right. I think with the scheming, I think I was reading through that, a bit of that, an overview of that research. This was about, LLM saying, "Oh, I've completed that task," when they patently
Mhm.
hadn't.
I
What's the
mean,
so
I call this digital workforce. It is workforce like. I mean,
I was about to say, I mean, look, we talk about biases in data and therefore creating biases in machines and machine learning or whatever it happens to be. I think in this case, people have been known to not necessarily 100% tell the truth all the time.
I've
Uh,
heard that.
yeah, I struggle to believe it, but there it is. I'm also told by friends that some people say the work is nearly finished or it's definitely done when it, definitely isn't. So we've trained these machines on this kind of corpus of our experience and data,
Mhm.
and they figured out that actually sometimes, actually, yeah, that's done, or it's nearly done, or yeah, but no one seems to know why. So I
No.
can only
See,
assume that that's it. It's got to be where they've been trained and where they came to.
well, that no, that's see, I think you hit it because to me, when I read through this the first time when we talked about it, and I read through it then, and then the updated article, which goes a little deeper than just lying. It actually is scheming to fool you, which is different than just lying. But but it is a certain amount of to me. You're training an LLM on what? You're training an LLM on all the available data in the world, and all the available data in the world would certainly indicate that people lie. I mean, let's be honest.
So
So we've trained it on data that says lying is not, it is an acceptable thing, I guess. I mean, to
so,
me,
so
that seems.
let's connect those two things. Our first topic and this one. So back to your booking an airline ticket. So you turn up to the airport. I definitely booked you on American Airlines flight, whatever, to wherever. And you turn up, it's like, oh, you're not booked on this flight. There's no reservation whatsoever.
Well, see, that actually has happened to me with an administrative assistant before. I had a pretty bad one that booked me on the wrong day. They booked me a day later than I was supposed to go. So I show up at the airport ready to board my flight. And they're like, "Sir, this ticket for tomorrow." So I mean, is the experience all that different? I don't know.
uh, I yes and no. So we're
I
quite
mean, the outcome's the same. I'm in trouble. I
the
didn't make it to my
outcome's the
meeting.
same. But when was the last time, kind of your ERP system just made something up for the hell of it?
Well, I mean, that's the problem. I don't know.
Fair, fair. Uh, I can't recall too many studies. I've also studied about, the potential issues around data quality in systems, of course.
Oh
But
yeah.
making
Oh,
something up, saying something is that isn't, I think is a bit more uniquely LLM.
yeah. Well, that's fair. And so, as you know, they've developed this reinforcement learning process, which
Hmm.
was supposed to help with this, right? So the idea is, if you think about, and we keep comparing LLMs to humans, and the generative AI to human thought, which my sort of feeling on that is that they're machines. They think like machines. We're humans. We think like humans. Why do we keep trying to make the two match? I mean, they're not the same.
Indeed.
But but I mean, that's just me, right? But they do, so that so they are trained on this big corpus of data. But that's not how people learn. People don't, you don't take a baby and plug it into the computer and say download all the data. It don't work that way, right? They learn by experience. That stove, that cute glowing stove top burner looks really pretty until you touch it. Then you don't
Yeah.
touch it again. you know or my daughter did this when she was, I don't know, 3 or 4. I looked around, I was in the living room, I looked around, and she had taken a little adapter plug out of one of the accessories on the TV, and was and decided she tasted it, and she didn't do it again.
Oh gosh. Well,
Luckily it was very low amperage, so it
as
didn't
I
do
was about to say, I
any
mean,
damage.
I know she's okay today, so thank goodness. But
So
yeah,
it did work out. But I
yeah,
mean, my point is that humans don't learn by just absorbing all the data around them, and you know, and then I'm smart. I got all the data. So reinforcement learning was kind of an answer to some of that, anyway, right? So if you give immediate, just like you would with a human worker, right? The worker does something, it's not good enough. You show them why it's not good enough and teach them how to do it correctly. They learn. They go to the next step. Same thing. Reinforcement learning was, is one attempt at trying to work through some of that learning, because it is reinforcing based on outcome versus I just have all the data in the world, so I'm very, very smart, right? I mean, if I absorbed all the data on the internet, I don't know that smart would be the right word, but anyway. So that's
yeah,
reinforcement learning. And
yeah.
then so that
Gone.
leads to this next topic that I just wrote something about, because I got really excited when I started doing some research on this, and I'd heard of this paper before. It was written like, I don't know, 2018 or something, the original idea of a world model. So the step was from LLM, which is trained based on training data, reinforcement learning, which takes an LLM and chatbot and does reinforcement over time, so you can teach it inside of boundaries how to accomplish a task in the way you wanted it to work.
Mhm.
Well, this last bit was, what if you could actually set it up so that the model that you're working with sets up an internal simulation of whatever it is you're trying to do to determine the best way to do the thing, and then does the task. If you think about it, that's essentially what I just described. Now, reinforcement learning goes part of the way, but
Yeah.
that's essentially what I just described with my daughter, right? So, except it would have been much better if she could have visualized inside of her little brain that if I touch this to my tongue, it's going to shock, and then she wouldn't have done it. I hope. I mean, I think so. So the idea that it could simulate in its own memory capability whatever this activity is, so that it could go through those different potential outcomes to get to the right one. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, for sure. I mean, I suppose it puts me in mind, particularly, I suppose, of sort of concepts of multiverses and the fact that every decision, etc., etc. It also puts me in mind, I'm afraid to say, of war games and asking the question: at what point does the machine realise it's not a simulation, it's not a game, or decides it's not?
You want to play a game?
Exactly right. We always come back to that one, but it was so on the money for its time.
It
Um,
was, yeah, no question.
So, I think it's really interesting. I mean, kind of create all these different synthetic worlds and test a bunch of stuff you couldn't necessarily test in the real world.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you think about just simple application, right? So the reinforcement learning, autonomous cars is a great, autonomous vehicles are great, place where I think reinforcement learning has worked. Although that's come with some risk. Like I hit this person, now I shouldn't hit that person again. That's not the best way to test
No,
the
no,
outcome.
I'm convinced that's brilliant. No.
No, no. But if I could actually simulate that, so that kind of takes it a step further. But I mean, obviously for autonomous things, robots, vehicles, whatever, that them having the capability even to do with reinforcement learning help. But if you put world model in place so that it actually can simulate those things quickly before it does an outcome. So, in other words, it's pulling up to a red light and it simulates whether going through the light as yellow is safe or not, and it sees no, there's somebody's already in the crosswalk on the other side, so I shouldn't do that. It stops and everybody's safe, right? I mean, I it seems like that's a good way to think about the next generation. And then if you took those all in combination, that could be a full system, right? So you've got LLM, you've got reinforcement learning, and you've got this capability, this world model capability, this
Mhm.
to real time simulate. All three of those together could create an agent that is in fact very capable of doing very complex tasks, even things
Yeah.
that it hasn't done before.
Yeah, in theory. Yeah, absolutely in theory. And it's interesting the way you're talking about it, kind of the reinforcement approach. It's almost a bit like you think about it in terms of use cases. You have to experience the use case to get the reinforcement learning opportunity, right?
Mhm.
Whereas if you can simulate squillions of them at high speed, uh, uh, that then it answers itself, doesn't it? Yeah,
Mhm.
I'd be very curious to see how this works out. And of course, I did think the research was of an Excalibur level, given it's you that wrote it.
Yeah. Well, if you go back to the original research, it's actually much more credible than just me. Um,
No, no,
but
indeed.
I mean, it is an interesting thing because it does go beyond kind of where we've been. 'Cause the criticism of LLMs is they don't think like humans. You're correct; they think like machines. I mean, they don't think like humans, but they do this pattern matching thing, and this is like the simple explanation of an LLM. Oh, it just does, pattern recognition. It predicts the next word, and that's how it does it. Now, in its outcome, it's considerably more complex than what that simple explanation would indicate, because it is when it's right, it can be very right. It can be very wrong too, as we talked about already, but nonetheless, it does have that capability. So if you added the reinforcement learning and then the world model into that mix, um, that could be a very powerful combination.
Yeah, yeah, I can see lots of
Right.
different potential use cases for it. And I think, you start thinking about, some of those, we often talk about the really big questions around AI and whether they're going to help with medical research and climate change research and coming up with
Mhm.
solutions. And this is kind of where that feels to me to start going to a place of realizing some of that. Maybe.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, and I think the idea of the physical world, the world model having that opportunity, because like they're just things that it would be too dangerous to test to do reinforcement learning, but you could certainly simulate that turning that gas valve on near the flame was a bad idea. Yeah, but trying it in person, to reinforce that it's a bad idea probably doesn't end well.
Yeah, yeah. Point well taken.
I mean, so anyway, that's it. So that actually leads me to something you just mentioned. Leads me down to this TechCrunch article that just came out about the funding this year. About
Yes.
33 US AI startups had raised more than 100 million this year. So timely. So 33 AI startups, and when I was looking through the list, I mean, an interesting list, obviously, and certainly we know there have been a lot of, and we've talked about funding before, so we know there are a lot of AI startups that have been funded this year. But the thing that struck me the most is if you broke those down, and I didn't actually write the math down, but as I went through it, I did. How many of those are vertically focused, almost all. That has actually, you know,
Hmm.
where it seems to me where that goes is the more focused it becomes, the more capable it could become because again, you're in a controlled domain and you're leading to very specific rather than general purpose. It ends up being specific specialty purpose.
Yeah, there was a legal tech one, wasn't there? And
There's several health cares and
defense and then it's healthcare. And yeah, I mean, yeah, we've talked on this before, and I think that's absolutely, kind of where a lot of the utility that I see anyway coming in from use of AI exists, which is domain industry specific knowledge, capability, IP that is therefore also capable of being protected by the companies it sells its product, and kind of really really clear cut use cases, right? So if I
yeah.
can reduce the amount of time it takes to research whatever from 5 days to 5 minutes, I've made a big gain. Um, at what cost is a different conversation.
I mean, that's always a part of the conversation, I guess.
But I also, the thing that struck me, I think, particularly about the list as well, was also the fact that how many of those valuations were a billion or more, or quite a lot more in some cases.
Hmm.
So, you can do your, what was OpenAI's last round value company at? Was it a
More
300?
money than I can count.
It was
More
hundreds,
money than I
it was hundreds of billions, wasn't it?
It
Memory serves.
was hundreds of billions. Yeah, yeah. I mean, at least with Anthropic, it's just been tens of billions. So,
Oh, well, that's far easier to grasp.
yeah, I guess I don't know. Well, but if you think about the go-to-market and just kind of tech in general and software, particularly through the years, we always start with general purpose and move to specialty purpose, right? Because if I'm a consumer of that, B2B or whatever, uh, buyer, I I like the story. I resonate with the story that says this tool is built for my industry because.
Yeah.
And so that to me, and I we used to joke. I grew up in professional services and running professional services organizations, and that was in the software company, and that was a great thing, right? Because the software never did everything the customer needed, so there was always opportunity for custom work because of it. And we'd always advertise that the software does 80% and we'll customize the 20%. The
Mhm.
truth was the software did about 55% and we customized 45%. I mean, to be fair, and there was good money in it, so don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining, but you know,
Indeed.
but that's always sort of been the reality. But then over time, you add more specialty process and capability, then it becomes more of a CRM for real estate versus CRM for anybody.
Yeah.
And so I think that same thing happens with the AI piece of it. The more specific you get, the easier the go to market is because it resonates more with the customer base that you're trying to target. Now you have to pick a big enough segment, obviously, and then you have to have ways to move adjacent, maybe to continue to grow. But as far as growth is concerned, that's definitely one of the ways that you can reinforce that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I talk about a lot in my work, and I know you've done similar. The kind of the I get it moment is very important. And if
Yeah.
it's a big conceptual thing that seems a bit sort of nebulous, it can be quite hard to get it. Whereas I am going to make, let's pick your example, real estate transactions happen faster, smoother, and make them more profitable as a result, so on and so forth. Then, oh, okay, I get that straight away. Yeah, at least if I'm
Yeah.
an estate agent or a realtor.
Well, yeah, right. If I'm a realtor or whatever, yeah, no. So that I think that's it, and actually that kind of leads me to the next thing because as you know, and we talked about the valuations are huge on this list, and we know the underlying discussion that's getting a little bit louder over time. It always does. Is yeah, but how do they make money? Right, and
Mm,
that applies to OpenAI as much as it applies to some new startup that's trying to build to find product market fit. The problem is with just the $20 $200 a month subscription business that they have, OpenAI for example, the chance of them becoming profitable is pretty really there. I mean, someday maybe,
I,
but
I haven't done the math, but there's probably, yeah, it's
especially
probably
when you're
right.
talking about the training costs for an LLM, which is, large. To say the least. Large language model doesn't often stand for size; it also stands for cost. But anyway, it's expensive. So that is, if you built a platform that does something, how do you make money over the long term? If I'm a software company, what do I do? I build applications on top of the platform, right? I mean, that's how I grow my business. I mean, even Oracle, who owned the database business for a long time and has been very successful with that. The way they continued their growth, though, was to add applications on top of the database and middleware, infrastructure, et cetera. And I think that's where we are now. And specifically, OpenAI announced that they're building an AI-powered hiring platform that
Mhm.
they want to use to take on LinkedIn. And again, if you think about that, I mean, hiring is one of the places where AI use case has been, very well proven already, and in job search and in hiring. So I mean, it seems like a logical application that could do very well. But more than that, fundamentally, that could be the way that you see some of these companies start to monetize by adding additional applications on top of the platform.
Indeed. God, there's a lot to unpack there, isn't there?
Uh-huh.
Although I have to be honest, I strongly suspect that people looking for jobs at the moment might have a different perspective of the impact that AI's had on recruitment more recently.
Yeah. Mm.
I think I was very entertained. I do see, people, talking about job ads that say, we know that, people use AI tools. We don't want you to use AI tools in your application, whatever. And then they go and use an AI tool to screen the applications. I mean, this seems very one-sided to me, at least anyway. But whatever. Uh, it's also kind of slightly funny that is it did they actually say it was to take LinkedIn on?
Yeah, they did actually say that that was
Okay,
the
because
point of it, but I'm not
obviously,
sure if that came from OpenAI or that came from the article, because it
okay,
was in the article. So I suspect that's a journalist's take on that announcement.
okay. I honestly couldn't remember, but it was interesting to me because, of course, I mean, LinkedIn's owned by Microsoft, which is also a major investor in OpenAI.
Okay.
And don't quote me on this. Didn't Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, also invest in OpenAI?
I'm not 100% sure, but I
No,
think so.
I'm not sure either. I kind of feel like I want to check now, but yeah, either way, um, yeah. And you know where I'm going to go next, though, don't you? Kind of say what I always say, which is, um, I don't think we're ready for this at this stage. I don't think we're ready for it. And you read these articles about, and I read a lot of them about, well, it's going to replace this many entry level jobs and this many white collar jobs and so on and so forth. And it's full steam ahead, but no one's asking questions like, kind of what happens to the potentially millions of people who are at risk of being put out of work.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole show in itself, I guess, but or maybe that's a week long show. Um, but
with
so
no with no compelling outcome, I'm afraid, as well. I don't think.
well, I mean, there's both sides of this, but if you go back again, history, right? But if you go back to shifts, major shifts in employment, like move from cottage industry and agrarian society to industrial, there were a lot of people that were displaced. There were people that retrained and were successful too, and that's my point. Is that what's our responsibility? Our being the global our, not our as in you and me. That is, that there do need to be paths that people could take. Now, some people won't take those paths. I mean, that's just the nature of it, right? You have people in the U.S. in the rust, what we call the Rust Belt, where
Mhm.
manufacturing went away, and they could have perhaps, found a way to learn new skills, do new things, but some of them just chose to not. And and that happened, in that agrarian to industrial shift as well. Some people adapt, some people didn't. My point is, we owe a responsibility as a society to provide opportunity to retrain, but we also can't prevent the fact that this new technology is in fact going to is going to eliminate some types of jobs. It just is.
Yeah, I think the cash is out the bag. Pandora's box has been opened, whichever you prefer. Take your pick. And I have to be honest, it's wishful thinking. I sometimes wish it wasn't like that. But yes, we do have a responsibility. But the worry in my head constantly comes back is, what are we going to train these folks to do? Because at the moment, I don't think there are the industries to absorb them, and I don't think I hear over and over again people with vastly positive, optimistic. Oh, it's going to create all these jobs we can't even imagine, and maybe that's true. Maybe I wouldn't discount it certainly. However, I'm really not seeing an awful lot of solid examples of mass employment creation as a result of the transition that's definitely already underway.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that we're at this beginning point that is amorphous in some ways, because we don't know exactly what jobs are going to be replaced, which ones are augmented, which ones change, which, there's, I mean, the simple example is coding, right? Almost
Mhm.
every major software company, well, almost every major, not just major, but every software company is using some form of AI to help with coding. And so that changes the developer job over time. And some, I've heard some people, actually, Sridhar Bimbu, one of the co-founders of Zoho,
Mhm.
um, we were talking about this not long ago, and he thinks that it, creates the need for developers to move to a different level, right? So instead of just being the people that put the code together, they need to be able to QA that code, of course, because that's an issue. But they also need to be able to create conceptual models of what you want the outcome to look like, because that's how you're going to get there. So there are new skills that the developers need to learn that they can learn. Some won't and will be relegated to the closet, I guess, but a lot will, and will adapt to this new collaborative way of doing this. Now, 20 years from now, 10 years from now, I don't know the outcome, because, maybe at that point it has replaced all developers. I don't, I
Mhm.
don't know. I can only know what I can see right now, and that is that there is a real opportunity, but there's also danger, and there should be some concern, but there is a solution that I could see at least in the near term, midterm, whatever we want to call the term.
Yeah, not the long term. Don't want to quote.
Well, not the long term, because it's just too unpredictable. Like, and long term is 5 years at this point. I
Well, didn't famous economist J.M. Keynes say that in the long term we're all dead? I can't. uh,
mean,
Something like that. No, indeed. Look, I think your point is well taken in terms of, for example, developers. But what percent of the world are developers? Um,
I,
Not too much.
yeah. I mean, in my world, there's a lot of them. I don't know.
Exactly, and don't we all live in our own bubbles, right? Yeah, indeed.
We
In my
do.
world, I know many developers and software engineers and all sorts of technical folks.
Mm.
And to me, it's kind of like a sort of normal thing. To a lot of people, it just isn't. And I wonder, if it does start to disrupt some of these bigger industries, which are, high headcount employers, at what point do we start saying that's more problematic? Because you can see, to your point, and to the point you're making, really, uh, there's real opportunity for a developer to kind of become conceptually more of a product person,
Mm.
um, and an outcomes person, rather than kind of the nuts and bolts of it.
Mm.
I don't see how that works for, and we'll go back to our silly example. It's not a silly example, that's not true. It's just a random example. A travel agent. Yeah.
Mm. I mean, let's be honest. That profession's been in trouble for a long time. So,
In, in,
the minute that
indeed.
the minute that Travelocity popped up on the internet, or some version of that, I'm sure that a lot of, there are many, many less travel agents today than there were 10, 15, 20 years ago. There just
Uh,
are.
I'm pretty sure that's right. Yeah, for sure. By the way, I found in the article. Now, see, how would you interpret this? This was about the LinkedIn thing. Notably, OpenAI's hiring platform could put the company in direct competition with LinkedIn, which was co-founded by Reid Hoffman, as we said, one of
Wow.
OpenAI's earliest investors.
Yeah. Yeah.
But is that LinkedIn was the early investor in OpenAI, or was it that Reid Hoffman? I don't know how to read that.
I think it was LinkedIn, because if you remember G2, LinkedIn was an investor in G2 early on too. I mean, they've had a active venture
Mm,
activity arm for a while. So I mean, maybe Reid Hoffman invested personally too. I don't know that,
I
but
don't
I
know either.
yeah
But yeah, I think you're probably right. I suspect it was LinkedIn.
yeah interesting. I mean, again, we're going to have all this co-opetition because everything is interconnected at some level in the tech world, and it can be very complicated who your friends are and who your enemies are.
Yes, it's that whole statement, not necessarily in regard to this conversation, but co-opetition and frenemies and all those fun words, which I think is
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
good. No, but just back at it, it really is. Um, I am genuinely concerned about kind of the world of work for a lot of people. I think, for example, I mean, the one let's pick up a really good high head count, kind of big employer if college graduates, right? So kind of let's say it's consulting, the big four audit and stuff like
mhm,
that, or whatever. What happens when it starts, and maybe as far as I know, it already does have an impact on those jobs.
mm.
And that's kind of when I start to think this is problematic.
Yeah. I mean, it is definitely already starting to change the world of consulting. I mean, honestly, it's starting to have some impacts on the tech analyst world that you and I are a part of. And there are a lot of those kind of knowledge work jobs that could be easily enhanced by AI in the now term. But I mean, over time, I don't know. Does it replace a lot of those consultants? I mean, I don't think we know yet. But I mean, right now, a consultant armed with a good language model and chatbot can do more than the consultant could do by themselves. So
Mhm. Yeah,
I can see some goodness there, but I also don't disagree that that also means that the numbers are probably go down over time,
yeah, yeah,
which
for
is not good.
sure. No, indeed.
Um,
Uh,
there's a lot of blue collar work that needs to be done. Sorry, that was probably inappropriate, but I just thought I'd share that if you're thinking about a career.
Well, talking of careers, I mean, you mentioned the tech analyst world. I've said this to you before privately. I'm very happy to say it publicly. I think that the tech analyst world is getting smaller and smaller, and
Yeah, yeah.
ultimately will probably largely disappear.
Look differently. How
Look
about that?
different.
Let's
Okay,
just say
okay,
look different.
I'll buy that. I'll buy that. But it's
Well,
interesting, but you think about it, because the tech industry one. No, look, what profession doesn't like talking about it itself? We're very much to
I
some
know
degree.
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
But it's interesting you think about it. When tech analysts were first a thing, the volume of information available to people just wasn't like it is today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, that's fair. And obviously a part of our value has been that capability to synthesize information that the vendors just simply didn't have access to, or the same thing from the user, right? From the end buyer, could help by being able to evaluate across vendor uh, capabilities and platforms and that sort of thing to give the best fit kind of
yeah,
discussions with them. So, I mean, some of that, at least for right now, isn't replaced. Like, I still think, on both ends of that, there are analysts that it's just like anything, right? There are analysts that will, in the short term, provide a lot of value and continue to have good. But and then there are some that are going to be disrupted. I think that's acceptable. What do they do? I don't know. I mean, that is going to be a discussion point across all of these industries. Is how what do you retrain them for? Where do they go next?
Yeah.
And how do you if you're if you're a college student thinking about where you want to go, what do you do? Do what professions do you go into that could have a reasonable expectation of longevity for you for a career or at least part of your career, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
speaking of that, my last story is is um, is an AI powered platform designed to prevent cheating and foster critical thinking. It's
This
called
is,
Math GPT. I
yeah.
was excited when I read this, and it
Uh,
is
uh,
in over 50 colleges and universities, including Penn State, Tufts, and Liberty. I don't know that one too well. Yeah, so it's U.S. pilots. Unlike other tutors, it uses Socratic questioning. I mean, how exciting is that? To help students
it's very,
learn without, you
to me, I mean, this is a lot of the point. It's a personal story, of course, but for me, a lot of the point of education is learning to have that kind of critical questioning approach to things.
know.
And you can make your own mind up. Get some information, you mess with the information, you ask questions about the information, whatever it is,
Yeah,
and you form a view. And if there's something that is helping people do that, that's brilliant because there's all we know there's been lots of talk about kind of the potential erosion of critical thinking as a result of the use of AI. Because you get presented with an answer without necessarily going on the journey to explore it and just discover it for yourself.
yeah.
So I think that's fantastic, personally.
Yeah, no, I really like it. And the other thing about this too that I thought was very smart from an application perspective is the fact that on the backside it also provides tools that help the instructors and professors know how do auto grading and integrate with LMS systems and uh, manage the assignments more effectively. So it actually helps both. It helps a student to learn better because of the method, and it also helps the professor to do their job, you know, more easily with good support and that sort of thing. So I thought to me that's a I and then I think AI in education is going to be an extremely important part because if you're coming out of college today and you don't know anything about AI, that's a problem. It is a problem, and I think there are a lot of places right now that that would be the truth. You graduate and you don't have any understanding of AI.
Yeah, fair. It's interesting. I mean, I'm not an educator. My older sister is, but I don't know what she would say about this. Maybe I should ask her. Oh, yeah, I'm
It'll
seeing
be
it.
interesting to hear. Yeah,
I know. I'll ask her because it's interesting to me. It's always been the case. I thought that we sort of tend to expect everyone to go through the same educational experience, and there's a very set path to getting there, and all that kind of thing.
Yep.
Whereas my personal view on the subject was always that we're all different, and therefore personalising that journey. And if we
yeah,
can do that in this kind of fashion with the help of tools like this, I think more people get to attain more, to achieve more.
yeah. Yeah, I'm a big believer in that whole idea of personalized learning paths. I think that is one of the big opportunities for AI in education is the capability to tailor the instruction to the way I learn
Hmm.
specifically, not generally. And that's to me, that's very different and very effective used correctly. Now, I mean, there's always the you're cheating and using it to do this or that, whatever. Fine. Some of it is there, some of it I don't know. But let's sort it out in this way, which I think is great. Math GPT, the platform that actually manages this in an effective way and shows good outcomes because of the
Mm.
fact that it does manage it in this way. So I was encouraged when I read this, and I've seen a few other tools that are popping up that are to take that sort of approach too.
More, please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. All right. Well,
And
so
maybe
so
it just flipped just real quick there. It also flipped directly into that conversation we're having about jobs and retraining.
yeah, it does.
Is there some of the solution here, some of the answer, not all of it, of course, but some of it is provided by using this tool to help people achieve, um, you know, whatever skill set it is that they need.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you think about this, like I love Salesforce and their whole, Trailblazer
Mm.
initiative to provide opportunity for people to learn guided learning paths for, different activities and jobs that they could get that they wouldn't have been able to get without that level of training. And so now they've moved that into the agentic AI world, and it's Trailblazer, your Agent Blazers. I'm not crazy about that one, but Agent Blazers, I mean, it is what it is, and it is helping people retrain to take advantage of these new capabilities. So I think there's a good undercurrent of things that are happening that could move us in that direction too. Now, there's going to be some pain, I mean, no question, but you know, I don't know, progress. Got to love progress. And speaking of progress, I get to say finally, after a year worth of talking about it, the book that I've been working on about agentic AI, so building a digital workforce, strategies for agentic AI success, is now available on Amazon and other major booksellers worldwide. So check it out. Building a digital workforce, easy to search. Check it out, or go to your oh damn! I just forgot the name of the website. Anyway, so go check it out on Amazon, and also, of course, the website, Your Digital Workforce, and we can help you take a look at Agentic and hopefully be successful. So there, I got my announcement out.
Yeah, you did.
Which brings us to
I'm still waiting, by the way. I'm still waiting for my signed copy.
Yeah, I've ordered copies that I can do that with. So, yeah, and it won't be a hardback because they're kind of expensive.
Well, Christmas is maybe how many days away?
Oh, yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair, and it is extremely beautiful printing and paper and all that. Anyway, all right. So the final thing is our cool tech, and I found something I was really excited about this month. I have to.
No, this is
and
cool.
this one's less crazy than some of the ones that we've seen. This was I was reading the other day about this stethoscope that is AI enabled that can detect major heart conditions just by examining the person, which is pretty exciting, I thought.
Yeah, if memory serves, this was tested in the UK, in parts of the UK, I think, as well. It was a BBC story.
Yeah, it's a BBC story. Yeah.
And kind of it can listen for things, as it were, in a way that the human ear couldn't probably detect, and it can then match them against patterns. Against a vast array of patterns that from other examples, and see things that we just otherwise would have missed, which is incredible. I'm not. Does heart beat, rhythm, etc. Does that count as It must be a biometric.
I mean, I guess it is. Although I don't is the rhythm unique enough that you would call it an identifying biometric? I honestly have no idea. That's an interesting question.
I don't know. I was thinking about that randomly. But no, really cool. I mean, anything else that helps us pick up stuff sooner is going to be better. And hopefully, this is something which will help prevent, unnecessary suffering.
Well, and to me, I think this is, when you talk about use of AI in medical, the diagnostic capability of augmenting the physician. To me, that's one of the most exciting new capabilities that's coming out of all the tech that we see around healthcare, is the enhanced diagnostic capability it gives the physician. So it's a human machine collaboration in a way that I think is very positive. And yes, I still want the doctor making those decisions with me, but I would like to have that doctor as AI enabled as he can be, so that he or she can see, what else is being done across the world and hopefully find the right answer. So.
No, indeed. I think your term there, augmented, is exactly the right one. Whether it's a surgeon using special lenses to see more closely, through to exactly this, the use of AI to explore more in different options. Yeah, I'm not a healthcare expert, but it seems to make perfect sense to me.
Yep. No, I think that's good. And I mean, even down to, some of the robotics that we're starting to see around very, very precision type activities, that the the doctor's involved in, but maybe humans don't have a hand that's stable enough to do that, but the robot could actually execute little pieces of that process with the doctor. So I'm encouraged by a lot of that. I admit. I think the health tech piece of it is pretty exciting.
And hopefully it makes it more accessible for more people. I think that for me is critical.
Yes.
So go to your example there, if there's robotics that allow a surgeon to be not physically present, perhaps they're the expert in a certain area. I don't know, and they can be present, telepresent via the robot. That seems like a pretty cool thing to me.
Yeah, there's already been some movement around that. I know IBM was involved in a pilot that I did some research on a few years ago at I think it was a Boston hospital. I forget exactly, but anyway, that they were doing some of these kinds of things, bringing in the expert from São Paulo to collaborate on this surgery or diagnosis or whatever, right? So I think that's a very encouraging use of the technology from my perspective. So and no, I don't think that the AI is going to replace the physician anytime soon, but I think it will make them better, which is a good thing.
I don't think so either.
I mean, yeah. All right. Well,
you want to
that's
have
all the time we have.
I know you do.
No, I do. But I'm going to cut us off this week.
I know. Well, look, it's now, yes. Oh gosh, well, probably over.
We are. Well, maybe it's a little long episode, so that's a late morning. If you lasted to this part of the show, you already know that. Anyway, that's all the time we have. I'm Michael Fauscette.
I'm Tom Pringle.
Thank you for joining us in this month's AI. And that's the show for this week. Thank you all for joining us. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the show. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a review to help others find us. For more research on AI and other software, check out arianresearch.com. If you're an expert in AI, generative AI, or business automation, either as a provider or an end user, email your information to disambiguation@arianresearch.com. Don't forget to join us next week. Disambiguation is an Arian Research production. I'm Michael Fauscette, and this is the Disambiguation Podcast.